everybody. Welcome. Guys, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well. It was a long week last week, and then today it's been pretty good.
Excellent. BC, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing okay. I'd be doing a little bit better if it wasn't like 200 degrees outside, but it's about time it got warm this summer, though.
It's everywhere. Europe is hitting record highs. People are dying. Over 1,100 people have died in Europe, and part of it is because the government discourages people from getting AC installed in their homes. They say it's bad for the environment.
Yeah, it's because their base standard is not to have buildings and houses with AC. So that's also why I don't take a lot of crap from Europe, because it's like, oh, you're gonna tell me how we should run our country when you guys don't even have AC.
And the World Cup has actually opened up a lot of Europeans, African, and Asians' eyes to how awesome America is. You got a lot of people talking about how their misconceptions of what they've been told by their media and others was basically wrong, and they're coming to America and loving it. So having the World Cup in North America, Mexico, U.S., and Canada was a great move for the rest of the world to see what it's really like versus what they're being told.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no matter where you go, your country's going to have some problems. But, I'd rather have America's problems than some of these other countries' problems.
Yeah, we got issues, but we still are the number one country in the world where people want to immigrate to. So that tells you what it's really like, right? In the rest of the world, when people still want to come here.
There you go.
Definitely.
Well, we've been running a series, but we should probably, before we get into that series, because I can't wait to hear Daniel's take on all this, to say hey to a few people that are kind of jumping on in here, so that I can see notifications are still kind of going out. But let's at least say some quick hays, because we got mining stocks in the house. Appreciate you being here.
And he joins the channel as a member. So
yes, he did. That's right. And dude, we love having Daniel on. He's a busy guy though lately. It's tough to get him anywhere close to a lot.
Even on the phone, it's difficult. I mute my phone so many times, dude. I'm in the middle of so many different things, but I love your guys' channel. I like what you guys are doing, education and all that, and that's why I come on to support you guys.
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah. And now I'm bringing up Bedell's comment where he said, hey, he actually was here on time, folks, but he had to go take care of a leak. So some things take priority. So we're going to see if we can't hold down the fort. I'm sure Daniel will just pick up the slack there for Bedell.
Oh, yeah.
Jesse, I almost missed Jesse. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. And I say Nicole Vargas. Welcome. And we had a kind of question already. And we're also, now this is your channel, yes? Daniel?
Yeah, yep.
Awesome. We're broadcasting there too. Thank you to Daniel. And we had a question already, and I think it might have come in mostly from your channel. Miss Libertarian, welcome. I didn't want to ignore it. Or more of a comment than a question, I guess. Talking about the IRS 1099 DA forms. That's all I got to say for that. With regard to that, but lots of digitally recorded ownership in assets that are tangible. I'm assuming you're talking RWAs.
Yeah, real world assets. I mean, they're categorized as. They're cryptocurrencies, right? The digital assets are just representations of real world assets, but they're still digital and they're counted as such. The current crypto regulations are more favorable, but we still need to fix it, right? I think that the CEO of Coinbase is talking about treating crypto stablecoins and real world assets the same as legal tender and getting rid of taxation on that stuff. So we'll see. I mean, that's a big push, and it's only going to be under this administration. I think we'll be able to get that type of favorable tax treatment on digital assets. But I'm okay with doing a segment of regulations for real world assets, which stable coins backed by the dollar and treasury bonds are a form of real world asset because it's attached. Same thing with stocks and other derivatives, but stocks are treated differently than cash and treasury bonds and everything, right? So it's interesting.
So I mean, I would just think that it would be kind of hard to get some of that done, especially when you see how much the dollar is taxed, you know?
Right.
Like, why would they set aside a special segment for crypto or a digital asset when they tax the dollar before you get it twice? They tax you when you get it. They tax you when you spend it, like all sorts of, and they're hemorrhaging money. So it seems like it'd be kind of a hard ask.
Well, I think part of it is because the Genius Act and the Clarity Act and how Kevin Warsh is looking to deregulate the banks and deregulate treasuries, which is going to allow banks to take up the role of the Federal Reserve. Right now, banks are capped at how many treasuries they can hold. So what Kevin Warsh wants to do is, instead of the Federal Reserve being the lender of last resort, which they have been, and they've been adding a bunch of assets to their balance sheet, they want to dump the balance sheet and then pass that off to the banks and crypto companies to hold the treasuries, so that the industry and the banks can absorb a lot more inflation, right? Because right now, the more assets under the books that the Federal Reserve has, that's an indication of how much debt, quantitative easing they're doing. If they can pass it off to the banks don't necessarily report like the Federal Reserve does. So it's a play to try to keep the system going, and that's part of the reason I think that they're trying to deregulate and maybe have a favorable tax treatment towards stablecoins and real-world assets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we kind of got right into it here. Without kind of getting right into it, I love it.
Well, you asked, I got somewhat of an answer. So
no, and Miss Libertarians made a couple of other comments, but I figured I starred them, so I'm not ignoring you. But I figured we'd kind of get to them a little bit later on, because I'd love BC to at least kick it off with the same question that he asks everybody when we start, at least, and then we can keep going down the rabbit hole.
Well, and so we've asked several people from several different segments of the crypto space, and you're in a very unique position of the crypto space where you actually get to talk to the people that are building up the legislation and things like that. So from this kind of angle, what do you think that the crypto space needs to do to kind of pull in people from your TradFi space to the crypto space? And then not necessarily project specific, but if you were kind of thinking of building up a project, what do you think a project would really need to kind of grab some of these people and make crypto either one, easier to use, or kind of hard to avoid?
Yeah. I think it's always been education. Everybody's been able to use DeFi for better part of a decade, right? So DeFi's been around for a while, and we've grown in DeFi. But then the TradFi space has gotten involved, buying crypto, making ETFs, the banks, and just today an article came out by Cointelegraph about the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements. They warned. They have a warning about stablecoins, and what they're basically saying, I want to quote, the Bank of International Settlements warned that the rapid expansion of stablecoins risks fragmenting the global monetary system and weakening sovereign monetary control, urging central banks and the financial industry to accelerate the development of tokenized forms of central bank and commercial bank quote unquote money as a safer alternative. Essentially, what they're saying is that the DeFi space and stable coins are going to cause a global monetary system disruption. And my response to that, I commented to the people in the group that put that article. I'm like, that's exactly what we want. We want to disrupt the global monetary system. We want to take away sovereign control of the quote unquote money or currency, right? So their response to DeFi disrupting the monetary system is creating central bank digital currencies and commercial bank or Bank of America stablecoins and other individual banks that are centralized cryptocurrency, which I've been saying for years, the future monetary system is going to be digital. This Genius Act and Clarity Act have been pushing the entire world towards a digital currency. Whether the physical people like it or not, the future is going to be digital. And that the fact that the Bank of International Settlements is warning the world that DeFi and stablecoins are disrupting the current global monetary system tells me the future global monetary system is going to be central bank digital currencies and commercial bank or whatever commercial bank CB. They're both CBDCs, central bank, commercial bank. They're both CBDCs, commercial bank and central bank digital currencies. So they're looking to launch two different CBDCs, and private and government issued or central bank issued. And whether we like it or not, that's the future. So how do we get people into crypto? One, we do nothing and let them experience what a CBDC looks like or programmable money, which hopefully will drive people towards DeFi space. But if they do this, they're going to regulate DeFi. Like they already tried it. They're with Trust Wallet and everything. You're going to have to KYC. So the only solution, I think, like if we really want freedom of digital currencies, freedom of money, one, go physical, right? Cash, gold, silver. That's the only way to really be autonomous and independent. Or two, you're gonna have to find privacy chains and use privacy chains, load your assets on there to obfuscate the what you're doing, the transactions and everything. Ultimately, it's education. It's the same thing with gold and silver. We have to educate people on gold and silver. People don't know what that is. People don't know how to, like Miss Libertarian says, physical. Physical is the foundation, right? Because even real world assets are based on physical assets, physical derivatives, physical contracts. Right. So the future is going to be digital, but I think when people are forced to have to use government issued or bank issued currencies, and then they start noticing they're shutting down their use or not being able to spend because whatever reasons, it's just going to be a lot easier to control the flow of currency from the central banks and the bankers.
So, I mean, we've brought it up a few times in this segment where you kind of see this similar to America's founding, where there wasn't one specific currency. Each state kind of had their currency, but then each segment of banks within those states kind of had their own dollar that they used. So you kind of see a similar thing happening, just more of on the digital realm.
Yeah, that's an interesting analogy, right? But back then we did have one currency, right? That currency, two currencies. We had gold and silver, and then the banks would hold gold dollars, silver dollars, and then issue their own check against the real money, right? So we had a decentralized system. That was one of the arguments for the Federal Reserve Bank, because these banks would do their own fractional reserve banking, and they just weren't controlled. So yeah, we had a decentralized banking system based on gold and silver, but because of bad actors, like in every other industry, the banks either issued too many checks, too many bills, currencies, and then when people ran to them to claim it, there were a lot of bank failures. Now, the boom and bust cycles during this time were nothing compared to the Great Depression and every single boom and bust cycle we've had since then, since the creation of the Federal Reserve. I mean, when they say a panic, the panic is regional, and yeah, it hurt because we didn't have an ever expanding credit supply or ever expanding debt supply. But yeah, I mean, if we take a gold and silver decentralized system like from before, when individual banks, and not states but banks, would issue currencies backed by gold and silver, and look at today, and now we're talking about issuing bank currencies or central bank digital currencies, commercial bank digital currencies. It's the same thing, but instead of being based on a real world asset, it's based on debt. Right. And then the banks, look, we have $40 trillion in government debt. That's only 3 to 5% of all the dollars in circulation. Most of the currency is issued by bank credit now. So we're just switching the systems. We're switching them from database systems to actual tokens that they control the supply and demand of, right? So they'll just replace the digital numbers in their database system with these currencies, and they're probably, they already have the rails, ISO 2022, XRP with the rails that transact around the world globally. So we'll get rid of the SWIFT system. We'll get to a digital currency. It's scary. I'm not going to lie. It's worrisome that we're going in this direction, because if we look at what China's done, we're looking at what Europe is doing, limiting cash. I mean, the ultimate goal is getting rid of cash and getting rid of individual sovereignty. They want to control the currency. It's one of the things that the government has hijacked that we're having a very difficult time in trying to get back to, and that's why we're pushing gold and silver as legal tender and trying to get back to a gold and silver standard. That's a huge uphill battle. And I think it's just going to make things worse. I mean, it might short term, if they deregulate the banks from holding treasuries, in the short term, it might solve some things, but it's inevitable. Every fiat currency has gone down to zero, right? So, but yeah, I think there are similarities between the last system and this system, but the biggest difference is one was based on real money, the other one's based on debt.
Yeah, and I mean, I think in our more modern age, it's kind of harder to peg these things to more physical commodity and have it be a one-to-one. You would have to do like your 1960s, 1950s, where you're doing a fractional of whatever hard commodity you're holding. But I think that would add a lot of safety to our system if we do more of a physical backed digital currency, and we just open it up back to these smaller banks. If you have regional banking systems and things like that, if you do see a failure, it's not your entire system collapsing.
Right.
It would really allow for competition, and you would see more favorable practices for the consumer, where, hey, I like this banking system better because they value my privacy. There's going to be banks that would be like, hey, we're going to adopt the Monero kind of model, things like that. And it would allow you to actually have competition in our banking systems again. I don't know if you have any 2 cents on that one, but I do think that's where kind of crypto needs to go if it really wants to compete against the system that we currently have in place, because it's going to break.
Yeah. I'm torn on how we move forward with crypto, right? Satoshi Nakamoto created a libertarian system with incentives on people to keep the network alive, right? So there's no such thing as a free lunch. So nobody's going to run a system, a network for nothing, right? And the whole purpose of Bitcoin and what Satoshi Nakamoto wanted was a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, which he created. But I don't know. I mean, if you guys have been to Bitcoin recently, I mean, I went to my first Bitcoin conference in 2021 after COVID, and everybody were in flip-flops, T-shirts. They didn't dress up. It was just a bunch of degens. And every single year, there's fewer and fewer degens and more corporatists. And they are taking over the crypto community. And it's a catch-22. We want the world to experience what it is like to have currency that they can control in their wallets, but we also want the rest of the world we want it to be mainstream. And the easiest way to make it mainstream is by going through the traditional financial institutions, which we are fighting against. So it's a catch-22. Do we really, I mean, yeah, cryptocurrency is great, but in the wrong hands, like in China or central banks, that is not a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we, and that's the problem. We want it to be mainstream, but for it to be mainstream, we need the banks and the other institutions to be involved. Which is an antithesis to the whole system and why the system was created. Yes. So there is no easy solution. The only easy solution is resisting and it not becoming mainstream. But it's also very technical. I mean, there are people who look. We're in the generation, our generation, millennial generation, maybe some X Geners and younger. I mean, we get it. We understand how it works. You learn how the system. I have no problem with DeFi and working the privacy chains and privacy wallets and everything. But that's not going to be mainstream. Trying to get a boomer or older generations, if we have any older generations left, and there are a few, to use crypto, millennials, we're starting to become the largest wealth asset class because the boomers are dying and leaving us their wealth. So millennial generation, we might be able to push and get the DeFi and all that. But once the banks have started taking over, I mean, like, I don't think I'm ever going to another Bitcoin conference. It's so corporate.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's so corporate. Like, it's the complete opposite of what the founder Satoshi Nakamoto created. I mean, that was the whole reason why I got into blockchain. I saw it as freedom from the system, but they are taking it over. So I don't know. I don't really have a clean answer to the problem. It's a problem.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just crypto, it's every aspect of life right now. We're fighting against technocratic socialism.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's the global problem that we are fighting right now. And I just don't think I think a lot of people are just comfortable with whatever system, as long as they can still buy their bread and they can pay their rent, but there's a lot of us, I mean, in my generation, at least the younger half of millennial, that am still kind of embrace that libertarianism, where it's like, no, I'm not comfortable with you stepping on my freedoms. Like, yeah, it might be minuscule, and sure, I've got my phone in my pocket and it's a listening device, but I don't think it should be a listening device.
Yeah.
And that's the battle we're fighting in all aspects of life, not just crypto.
Yeah, it's not just data. Dude, the corporations know more about you than you know about yourself. They've analyzed the way you think, the way you shop, where you travel. They know where you go with your Google and Apple Maps. They know everything about us. And then they sell that data to corporations to sell us products. It's a lot worse. I mean, the only way really is to bug out and try to go off the system, the grid. But if you do that, you're not going to really be able to do much. You'd be secluded. You can look. I love homesteaders. I love people who are off grid, but then you can't be a part of the global economy. I mean, if you're doing cash, gold, silver, and that's it. So, I mean, ultimately, I'd love to be that way, right? I'd love to go off the grid, but with my position now, I can't do that. Maybe in the future, when I retire, I'll be off grid. Nobody will ever find me again. But at this point in time, the mission that we're pushing, it's the same mission that Bitcoiners. You fix the money, you fix the world. And I really do believe that, even if it isn't a pure system, right? And that's a problem with a lot of libertarians. Libertarians are idealists. And the former president of the Mises Institute, I forget his name, Jeff Deist, he gave a talk at the Liberty Forum in New Hampshire. And he was basically chastising libertarians. And he's saying, look, libertarians, and he was compared to Trump. Trump has gotten a lot done because he's a populist. He hears what the people want, and he pushes forward. Whether or not we agree with everything he does, he gets things done. Unlike libertarians, he's like, look, if Mises, if Rothbard, if the libertarian greats just bend it a little, we might have gone a lot further. Right? So to having a pure gold and silver standard again, I don't think that's ever possible. I think a hybrid model is more realistic, where like I like what Jim Rickards is an expert in gold and silver, and he basically says to get back to a gold and silver standard, we need to back the currency by a percentage of gold and silver, and then have a deviation. His theory, his solution is have a deviation of 2.5% of higher and lower. So if the currency is getting too strong, then we need, and it gets that higher threshold. Let's say it's 40%. If we start getting to like 42.5%, then you sell the gold to get it back to that middle ground. So the deviation is 37.5 and 42.5. So that gives the government the ability to print more currency by acquiring more gold, and the more gold we acquire, the more it can print, and then having that constraint in 2.5%. I mean, I think is really the most plausible reality of getting back to a gold and silver standard.
I just want to put this up here because you're getting a little pushback from Miss Libertarian about libertarians. So, not that surprises me, but
not true. Libertarians measure the difference between actual and ideal and try to achieve efficiency somewhere in between. Usually. That's not most libertarians, Miss Libertarian. I mean, I know you've met, because you're a libertarian, those who are so purist in idealism. You're a realist. That's where I put myself. I have my idealism, and I have my pragmatic views, and I find myself somewhere in the middle.
Well, I'm kind of the same. I don't know. I kind of am of the same mind of what you had said, whereas in like I hold rigid to how I would like things to be, and I don't want to bend on those things, but at the same time it's like I'm willing to have some compromise, but I'm still going to tout for the thing that I actually want, just because we need to have those, even if it is idealistic standards to counter against the pushback from either side.
Right.
There needs to be some sort of standard that we can at least push back towards, if not actually get there.
Right. And ISTJ, I'm an ESTJ, so same as your mom, but just extroverted. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I have my ideals, and my ideals I know that probably will never come to fruition. So when you're lobbying, look, it's like lobbying when you're writing legislation. You write exactly what you want to get passed, but you have to be open to compromise, because you're not the only individual. So, we give them everything in the kitchen sink, and but knowing that we're going to have to probably budge. I mean, the Constitution, the Great Compromise, the New Jersey Plan, and the Virginia Plan, we compromised the way that our country was founded. You had the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, the small states and the big states. We have to be how do you say, flexible when it comes to what we want to push. The same thing, like the Bitcoin movement, the digital sound money movement. Started with a beautiful idealism. I think the idealism of Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto creating a separate monetary system, which people have embraced. You have these idealists who are Bitcoin monomads. They only live Bitcoin. They live their idealism, but they're outside of the normal monetary system, normal means of doing business. Same thing with gold and silver stackers that don't use credit cards and everything. They're living their best life in that system, and kudos. I'd love to be in that system too. Either system. I mean, I use crypto when we're not in a gold and silver bull market, and I use gold every other time. Right, gold and silver are my money, and I don't know why we got off of libertarianism and idealism, but go ahead.
No, well, I was curious. You mentioned that you see that it might be like a hybrid system. My question is, are you really thinking it's going to be a hybrid system, or that like, and maybe just looking at it strictly from your gold and silver perspective right now, will it be a parallel system because we're never going to be able to get full integration back?
Yeah, we're pushing with our legislation a parallel system. We want a sound money legal tender system alongside whatever the government's pushing. That's ideal, because Mises was huge on currency competition. And if we have a competition of currencies, people are going to flock to the currency that is best for trade and barter and savings. And that's all we're asking by making gold and silver legal tender. But the hybrid system is for that system. It's for revamping the debt-based system, which is a theft system. It's stealing the wealth of the people, and getting back to something tangible that restricts the government spending and restricts the government wars and all of government welfare programs. Look, if we're still on a gold and silver standard, the Great New Deal, or whatever the hell FDR pushed, or Lyndon Johnson pushed, wouldn't be possible. A lot of the programs, Social Security, wouldn't be possible on a gold and silver standard.
Because also you would need it less than a gold and silver standard.
Right. That's right. Because they're stealing the wealth of the people, so they're giving them currency because they're stealing it from them. Right. It's look. There's charity, and for all of mankind, charity has been from family to family, and if not the family, the community, and not the community, the church, and then larger charitable organizations. That's how we've handled welfare in the past. It was always a private function. The minute you give it to the government now has this mandate that they need to take care of the people, and that's all socialist. That comes from the socialistic ideal. So yeah, I mean there's more problems. There are as many problems as there are solutions. It's just we don't know the direction that the world's going to go. I mean, we're not sitting in the halls of government with the decision makers, right? We're out here trying to influence them to create better policy and create a better form of government. But it's difficult. It's difficult. If I was a multi-billionaire, it'd be a lot easier. I can have my own PAC. I can buy off a bunch of politicians, push good policy, but I'm not. I'm not a billionaire. I'm just me with a nonprofit with a little coin shop trying to make a retirement for myself and maybe raise some capital to be able to do something like that and get more people involved. And yeah, F socialism. 100%.
Exactly, Mike. And welcome, by the way.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd love to destroy the Fed. I like to end the Fed. That would solve a lot of the problems. But there's creating a system. If they do end the Fed, they still have the Clarity Act and the Genius Act, where the private companies like Tether and all these other digital asset companies are going to take the place of the central banks, and then the commercial banks are going to take the place of the central bank. If we get rid of the central bank, that solves part of the problem, major problem, and gives the power back to Congress to regulate the monetary policy. But it's we have too many billionaires and trillionaires now, right? And the problem with human nature is human nature gravitates towards institutions where they can grow in power and they can grow in wealth. And unfortunately, that system has become government. And it attracts the worst type of people. I can count with both hands how many politicians are actually statesmen. There's a difference between statesmen and politicians. Statesmen don't care about the influence from the outside. They have their principles, and you vote for that person based on his principles. They don't sway, they don't budge based on those principles. And then those people they're not effective. Statesmen are not effective. They might be respected amongst their colleagues, but look at Ron Paul. The only thing Ron Paul was able to get done was the Coinage Act of 1985 to create the American silver dollar and the American gold eagle and the silver eagle. I mean, he was in office for a long time and didn't really make a huge impact. And he got leadership, but they gave it to him because of seniority. So it has to be a societal change. And look, we can talk about all the problems of society and the monetary system and all that. All we can do is do our part and push and try to make a better world for ourselves and for our future kin.
No, so that's a big part of what this conversation was for.
Exactly.
Because there are a lot of problems with it. And I mean, you highlighted something I say all the time, abolish the Fed. But like you said, that fixes one part of the problem. The other part of the problem is, what is the currency afterwards if we abolish the Fed? Is it just going to be the same thing, but all these banks are using a fake money system where they're like, hey, actually, this paper dollar has no intrinsic value, but if you use it, we promise that this group of businesses is going to accept it as legal tender? Or are we going to do like a hybrid system, which I feel would be the only way to do it? Go back to something similar that we had in 1970, where you have a fractional reserve based on a physical asset, whether this is just gold, silver, palladium, something. Get something tangible that we can back these assets with. But then we could also have like a fiat system, and then also have a crypto system, where all of these things work in tandem, and you use one thing for one thing, another for another, where, hey, I might hold my reserves in gold and Bitcoin, and I might transact every day with whatever currency is around in the region that I'm in. I know that seems to be the only thing that would also give power back to some of the people. I just don't think everyone's really ready for that, because it would be a giant shock to our system.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, I interviewed an Austrian economist. He's German, but he teaches at the University of Paris. And we asked him, what does he see for the future monetary system? He answered the question by saying that it's human nature to gravitate towards one currency, right? Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, we did have one currency for pretty much 6,000 years, gold and silver, two currencies, gold and silver. So it is human nature to gravitate towards one currency. The Bretton Woods, every single major currency that was trusted and utilized. I mean, look at the soldis. The soldis, they're in the Byzantine Empire, lasted over 1,000 years. It's the greatest example of using a currency without government debasement. The minute they debasement, you stop hearing about the soldis. Same thing with the Greek stater for a few hundred years. Then you had the Spanish 8 reals. It was used around the world. You had the British sterling. Even the Dutch thaler was used globally. When you have trust in the monetary system, people gravitate towards that. They don't want to use different governments because they don't have trust. It's all about trust. And gold and silver is a trustless system as long as they're not being debased. When you have purity of gold and silver, people use that. There's trust in that. And when they debase that gold and silver, that's when you start seeing. That's where Gresham's law?
Gresham's law. When bad money enters the system, good money flees.
Right, exactly. So that's Gresham's law. So how do we fix that? Bad money's fiat. If we go to a standard where you have two different currencies, competitive currencies, people are going to store and hold the good currency and spend the bad. So yeah, we can spend the bad currency, and that's what we're at right now. We have real money. We store our wealth in gold and silver, and then we liquidate it, so we spend it. There's no difference. It's just, I think the future is just going to be a lot more efficient with asset-backed digital currency. We store our wealth in gold and silver, and then we sell it for fiat, right? So we don't know. I think the people... And look, I want to back up a little bit more and lay down the problem with our current system. The problem's hundreds of years old, and it's the bankers. The minute the bankers or the goldsmiths started writing more paper checks or claim checks against the real money, that has been the downfall. Every single major monetary policy shift that got us away from sound money was due to bankers lobbying government to get rid of, like, for example, the monetization of silver that destroyed the Latin Monetary Union, it destroyed the United States, farmers and the poor. You need a bimetal system. You don't need a bimetal system that's locked, tied, a ratio determined by government. You need a free-floating bimetal system, so that, when new supply is found and there is an inflation, like say silver, that ratio is determined by the free markets. We want government completely out of it. We want bankers. And the problem is the bankers have so much control because they control the currency. They control global wealth. They keep printing currency. The more they print, the more they steal from the entire global economy. I mean, that's essentially what GDP is. So I like what Neil said. As Judy Shelton said, it will take around 25 years to get America on a gold standard. And that's on a traditional gold standard. I mean, we can do it in a lot less if it's a modified system like Richard, what's his name? Jim Rickards talks about. So
it would be hard to keep the economy that we have as America being the number one and the driving force that is, the biggest consumer, if we're going to go on a full 1-to-1 backed by gold system. It'd be really hard to have an expansionist system as well.
It would be, and that's why I don't think we can get back to a strict gold and silver standard. We are so used to being drunk on government spending and debt spending that that I don't think it's possible to get back to a gold standard. One, it'll create a deflationary recession, which the central banks and bankers absolutely would do everything in their power to prevent.
To stop that,
Right. So the only real solution to prevent a deflationary collapse like that is to back the currency with the amount of gold that we currently have, and not just gold, silver, oil reserves, land. We can back it by real world assets. So the United States has, we're the third largest country in the world by land mass. We have a bunch of resources. We can become independent, protectionist state if we wanted to. We wouldn't be, as strong as a powerhouse. Global trade has helped with that. But I just look, in an ideal world, I'd love to get back to a gold and silver standard, modified to where it's fluctuating gold and silver prices, but fluctuating against what, right? If we go back to a gold and silver standard, the reason why they pegged that is because that was the money. What are you comparing it against, right? If you have a free floating market, that means you're comparing gold and silver to something else. So that means there is another monetary unit out there. So, but I guess the argument could be that the ratios, instead of comparing it, the ratios naturally change. So let's say we do go. Let's use this thought experiment. Let's say we abolish all the central banks. We get back to a gold and silver standard. The treasuries print the exact amount, or they back. If they back the gold 100%, it's going to be like $60,000 an ounce, or whatever it would be if we do the math right now with how much debt and bank credit there is. Maybe it's more, maybe it's $100,000 an ounce. Fine, we do that. $100,000 an ounce, and then we get rid of the dollar, and then we just peg it, right? Like it'll be $100,000 bill would be an ounce of gold. And then those ratios would constantly change. How much currency is there? What are the reserves? And then you start measuring, all right, it's 100 or 60 ounces, then it's 50 ounces. If you do a free floating currency like that, where you're measuring in ratios, and then you do peg a denomination, right now it's $50 an ounce. You change it from $50 an ounce to $100,000 an ounce to do the revaluation. Look, they're doing a $20,000 an ounce of gold at $250 face value. Right, they 5x'd it, which is exactly a 5x increase from the current value of $4,000. 4 to 20, it's 5. So, $50 gold ounce, so 250 is a 5x increase. If we do back the entire currency with gold, you could do $100,000 face value. It won't mean anything because the monetary system is gold and silver, and then you just start doing, you do the fractions. 100,000. It's like a Bitcoin with 100 million satoshis. Now you got a gold ounce, and then $1 is 1/100,000th of a troy ounce, right? That's what a dollar is, and then you have different ratios. It's possible. It's just not going to be pretty, and I don't think anybody wants to do that conversion.
Fair enough. We're already 45 minutes.
Comments.
And there's so many starred comments that I'd really love to try and get through. Well, no, actually, no, not yet. I want to take this one other direction away from the money aspect of this, because a lot of what we've talked about has been the money aspect. But I would like to focus on the actual technology aspect for a second, and blockchain in particular, because Daniel, like I said, when I invited you here, your story was like in the back of my head as I was putting the episode together, your origin story, as it were, and how you talk often about, wow, if blockchain technology existed, back then. And I would love to kind of hear a little bit about your take with regard to that, and then from maybe that perspective, what you think that these companies or developers, etc., need to do to promulgate that kind of mass adoption.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly go over my family history. So I'm first generation Cuban American. My family left Cuba after my grandfather was jailed for buying extra rations of meat. They came here with nothing but the clothes on their back, and America provided the opportunities for my grandfather to come here with literally nothing but clothes on their back, to building a multi-million-dollar construction business, selling it in the 80s when he was in his 50s, retiring and leaving our family an inheritance. And I promised myself at a young age, I'll never allow what happened to my family's country to happen in my country. So at the age of 16, I got involved in politics, and I've been fighting socialism and communism every step of the way. I transitioned into finance because I realized that there really isn't much of a difference between political activity and monetary activity. They're hand in hand.
Follow the money.
Yeah, follow the money. And he who has the gold makes the rules, right, or makes the laws. And then, I was a stockbroker for a while. I had a business partner during COVID, and my business partner was like, "Hey, why don't we buy Bitcoin?" Bitcoin was like at $3,500 an ounce back in, I think, 2020, March of 2020. I'm like, "No, absolutely not. I'm not going to buy that. It's tulip. It's worthless internet money." And then, my friend Daniel also started calling me, and they kept bugging me. And I told him, "Look, stop talking to me about it. I'm not going to invest." He's like, "Look," Daniel called me. He's like, "Look, I'm going to show you 2 videos. And after these 2 videos, if you're not convinced about, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, we'll stop talking to you about it." I didn't even need to watch the second video. It was the first video with Don Tapscott on how blockchain technology is changing the world. And what convinced me about the power of blockchain technology was the immutability of it, the fact that it can't be hacked, it can't be changed. And he gave an example of land deeds. He said 70% of the world's population have tenuous titles and deeds, meaning that they don't own the land, they only lease it from the government for 99 years or whatever during the time that they're alive, and then it goes back to government control. And he's like, imagine if you were able to add your land deed and title. He gave an example in Nicaragua where the communist government came, destroyed the land deed and title, put a communist friend's name on the deed and title, went with guns and trucks, pointed to the guns, like, "Hey, this paper says that this land belongs to my friend, get off." It's like, now what if we put that original land deed and title on the blockchain, and we could prove that they actually own the land? And that was a light bulb off the top of my head, and I thought, holy cow, if we had blockchain technology in Cuba in the 50s and 60s, the revolution happened, and let's say the regime collapses, and which looks like it might happen sooner than later, then we could go back and prove that my family owned that land before it was taken by the government, and either get the land back or get reparations. And I'm like, it was at that point I realized blockchain technology can provide more freedom, economic, political, and individual freedom than any political activity. I've changed my tune a little bit because you need political activity to get a lot of these things done. But I still believe that blockchain technology, the immutability and the ability to transfer peer-to-peer is one of the most powerful aspects for liberty and freedom for mankind than anything else. The decentralized finance, not the centralized stuff that's controlled by third parties or the government. And that's why I'm a big proponent of privacy chains. With everything I've discussed earlier, it's been hijacked by the multinational corporations, the financial institutions, the bankers, which is the last thing we wanted initially as Bitcoiners and sound money digital sound money advocates. I differentiate sound money advocates from digital sound money advocates. It's two different things.
Yes.
And it's important that we have an immutable system because we can't trust government. Every time we put trust in government, they fail us every single time. I've never known a government that was truly just the entire time it's existed. It's always leaned towards corruption, and every government on the planet is corrupt. There isn't a just system, a purely just system. Because of the multinationals buying politicians and buying elections and doing what they do. There's too much power and too much greed in human nature to have a just system. And the only way to really do that is truly have a monetary system that they can't manipulate. And going back to a gold and silver standard, fixing the money will restrain government, but the people have to rise up. I'm not for revolution, but there has to be, at least what's it called? A civil disobedience. Civilly disobey the government. They can't throw all 300 million of us in jail, right? So it's really, and we don't even need the whole government of the whole population. We just need 5 to 10% of the population to rise up and civilly disobey the government to make real change.
I appreciate you going into that. Like I said, that was probably more interesting or more of my thought process where, man, this is going to be an interesting piece to this conversation than even the currency part. And, I love the currency part, but that was interesting.
And it really highlights the fact that, blockchain technology or, crypto is not just for the peer-to-peer transfer of your economic power. It is peer-to-peer for literally everything. It is a technology that could change the entire world as we know it, and that's
music,
why
the arts, everything. I mean, it could literally transform all data, all assets. I mean, we can start using it now to put our land deeds and titles, our trusts, our documents, and have an immutable system, right? I mean, we have systems like that now. They're encrypted, but they're not immutable. A company goes down, servers go down, that's it. A decentralized network, you can have half the world go out, and you still have the other half running the network. It might get congested, but you still have the files in the network. So, look, I'm not here to solve all the problems. I'm here to solve one problem at a time. I mean, I'm just one guy, one little organization. We're doing our best to change the monetary system, but if we get enough people to unite, look, and really, when I think the people rise up historically, when the 40% of people's monthly income goes towards food, that is when revolutions happen. That's what happened with the Arab Spring. That's what happened with the French Revolution. That's what happened with every single revolution. When that 40% mark gets hit, we're around the high 20s, low 30s right now on average for food. Another 12-10%. If inflation continues to go up, if food costs continue to go up because of inflation, then we're going to see. People are upset now. Imagine if people can 40% of their entire check goes towards food and they're barely making it by, right? Yep. And you have billionaires or trillionaires. It's like, give them cake. Right, give them baseball, give them football, give them the entertainment. It's not going to last long, and they're keeping us dumbed down through entertainment for only so long. But once people start getting hungry, that's when revolution happens. And I'm not a proponent for revolution. I think that's one of the bloodiest, worst things that can happen to mankind.
Yeah.
But for taking after MLK, taking after Gandhi, civil disobedience, we can change the world through that. But it's going to take something that impacts the world, or at least this country, to the point where for enough people to rise up to change it.
Well, and I mean, it's why you're seeing what's going on in New York City going on right now.
Right.
You turn the screws enough, eventually the people start to push back. And revolution isn't always a guarantee that the system that replaces the one before it is better. So
yeah, I mean, the Constitution is probably the best government document that's ever been created. It is literally the longest lasting constitution ever created by man. It is probably the best form of government. The problem is the government's only as good as the people that are elected, and the people that are elected are only as good as the electorate that chooses them. And that tells you there's a problem with the electorate. There is a problem with the soul of America, the problem with the psyche of America, where we're electing people who are untrustworthy and who are corrupt, right? So and that is for the whole world. So that's why at the core of it, it's a societal issue that needs to be fixed, and you can fix it through education, a spiritual awakening. There are things to change society. And we had two great awakenings. The first one was better than the second in America, and a lot of things changed for the better. But there has to be something, whether it's an economic change, a spiritual change, just a global worldview change. I mean, 1/3 of the world was communist, and we kind of defeated that. That was a worldview change, right? One man can change the world. It's just who's gonna lead that charge, and who is going to rise the people up to try to take back the government that was founded by the people for the people. At least this government. The rest of the world, that's a tougher thing to do, because they all come from monarchies or despots or tyrants. And the concept of freedom is completely different around the rest of the world than it is here. I mean, I noticed that when I was traveling in Europe last year. And, the idea of freedom here is absolute. The idea of freedom there is what the government lets them do, right? And, we're also the only government in the world where the smaller jurisdictions have the constitutional authority to make another form of money legal tender. And that's another benefit that we have in this country. That's why we're pushing at the state level. So look, there's a lot of problems. There's solutions, but there needs to be the political will from those in power, or the will of the people to push it.
Fair enough. I say we do a lightning round, because again, we're here an hour. Daniel, I want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate everything. But let's do a lightning round on some of these comments, and some of these go way back to the beginning of the show. So I don't believe digital currency that is backed by nothing but trust and foolishness. Well, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people feel that way, I guess.
Like Ethereum, crypto, all cryptocurrencies not backed by real world assets.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I mean, look, I've said on this channel before, all cryptocurrency that's not backed by anything is just a derivative of the dollar. The value of the cryptocurrency is 100% dependent upon the fiat currencies that are injected into it, right?
And here you go. Basically, obviously, gold and silver advocate, Miss Libertarian, and you guys run the show according to her. And,
the more we eventually refuse to use fiat and imaginary currencies, we run this show. Yeah. Look, every fiat currency has failed. Every single one. The 100% failure rate. We're going to go back to some type of real world asset backing, I believe.
Yep. And then let's see. The Monopoly game went from paper to digital. Pretty much right there. Yep. And let's see. The market is all consumers who want to buy food and shelter and energy. Gold and silver are their commodity of choice when they don't have refrigerator for sandwiches with expiration dates. I mean, go Daniel. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, one, I wouldn't call gold and silver a commodity. Commodities are meant to be consumed. Gold and silver is money. Everything else in the commodities sector is consumables. I mean, I guess you can argue that silver is a consumable. I mean, you can literally consume it, but I wouldn't call gold and silver a commodity. That kind of devalues its actual role. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's true. I mean, think about, we're all energy, and we need to consume energy to stay alive, to think, to stay healthy. The minute we can't afford shelter, the minute we can't afford food, that leads to revolution. So but yeah, I agree with her. You don't need a refrigerator to keep food. We figured out how to preserve food through salt and other means, drying it out and everything. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I get it. In today's society, yeah, people don't. Dude, think about it when a hurricane hits and how crazy the people in the streets get. There's violence, there's shootings. Not always. You have good communities that help each other, but like in Louisiana and in Texas, when the freeze happened, I mean there was chaos. So people don't get their food or their AC, they freak out.
That's true. And I love this. Isn't the term stablecoin the same oxymoron as military intelligence or jumbo shrimp?
I agree, except for the jumbo shrimp part, because I actually eat shrimp that are jumbo, that are like this. I mean, just massive. So the oxymoron for jumbo shrimp when they're not jumbo.
There you go. And I definitely highlighted this because you brought up a point during part of what you were saying about like generations and the generational gaps here. And here you go. They want to talk to a teller in this case. Obviously, you're talking boomer age type people, right? Anyway, and they don't want to use the ATM card, maybe, although that's even been around for 20 years. But it is very much everything we're talking about, from money to blockchain technology, is all in the perception of the generation and age of the person who's using it. I mean,
well, think about it. Like the boomer generation were alive when we didn't even have credit cards, right? The credit cards really came about in like the 80s, right? And JCPenney was really big on pushing that, Sears and all that. And then now you can't imagine a life without a debit card or a credit card. In 20 years, in 50 years, we can't imagine a life without digital currencies. Because look, if Elon Musk does prevail and we get a permanent settlement on the moon and a permanent settlement on Mars, are we going to send money, like currency, physical currency, to the moon and to Mars? No, it's all going to be digital. Think about the future progression of humanity.
It's so funny you say that. There you go.
Yeah, how will someone? Yeah, exactly. Look, the future is digital, whether you like it or not. Now, you can back that digital currency with real-world assets, deeds, titles, commodities, whatever, derivatives. It has to be digital if we're going to progress into be an interstellar species.
Well, I mean, or something like Bitcoin, where Bitcoin is backed by energy.
Right, or look, we're at the precipice of the quantum era. And quantum entangling, you can create a quantum entanglement like wallet, to where you have a wallet here on Earth and then you have a wallet in Mars, and they don't need to be connected. You whatever you do in that wallet, the quantum entanglement will deduct it from the hard drive or the wallet here on Earth. Look, we're just breaking the surface of quantum entanglement with currencies and data and everything. Like I was on the board of directors for a quantum company, and the future is quantum. The future is going to be digital. And if we don't progress and we don't upgrade our systems, there's going to be a real Y2K problem. But for trad encryption versus quantum encryption, and it could destroy everything if AI gets a hold of it. The future is very scary. We're not even touching on AI and the future technologies, right? That's a completely different rabbit hole. But like when you put into perspective the advancement of humanity, the advancement of AI, the fact that quantum computers exist and we're able to solve things that would have taken millions of years to solve, like, prepare yourself. Like, get your gold and silver and have the real money so you can transact beyond the grid. But if you're going to be in the multi-planetary global system that we are going to be in when we're in our 80s, 90s, or whatever, then just prepare yourself, because the future is digital.
Fair enough. TD Bank in Canada sells bullion to their customers, but they won't here in the U.S. I don't know anything about this. Daniel, you have any idea about that?
I know I'm selling bullion to Canadians. Canada sells bullion to the. Obviously, our relations between Canada and the U.S. aren't at the best that they've been. So it doesn't surprise me that maybe Canada isn't selling to U.S. citizens. I don't mind selling bullion to Canadians. So that's not a problem.
Fair enough. What's this? 14 companies are registered to make a crypto money that is used in America. I am not sure exactly what he's referring to. Any idea, or Daniel? Any idea?
Most of them are banks.
Yeah, they're probably banks.
Okay. He's referring to. Okay. Now I got you. And I wanted to make sure I shouted out mining stocks. I don't know if I did it earlier. I brought it up on the screen, but dude, thank you. And Mike Vollmer was the recipient of that free membership. So shout out to mining stocks and Mike Vollmer. Let's see. There are two economic experiments going on in the world right now, gold and BTC. The winner will be chosen by how the surrounding countries' economies do.
Yeah, gold. Look at the Bitcoin Act that the U.S. has been trying to push since 2024 when Trump announced it from Bitcoin conference. We're going to reevaluate gold. I personally think they'll reevaluate the $20,000 an ounce based on the fact that there's been rumors about this, a lot of videos, a lot of people have been talking about it. I've heard people from government talking about reevaluation. Reevaluation is happening. Whether it's current market rates, 10,000 or 20,000, I'm leaning towards 20,000 because we literally have a $250 face value bell at the U.S. Mint worth just shy of $20,000. And we have a half-ounce silver bell, metal, with no face value for $750, which is a $1,500 silver ounce. I think they're going to reevaluate gold, and they're going to take that new currency, create new gold bonds. So the way that will work, the Federal Reserve will give the Treasury back their $40.22 or $42.22 ounce certificates, destroy them. The Treasury will issue new $20,000 an ounce gold in Fort Knox to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve will print, which they are currently printing a bunch of currency and putting a lot of currency. The central banks of Kansas City, New York, and all that, they're printing a bunch on the balance sheets right now, which I think they're ramping up for the Bitcoin Act to print all to give all this new currency to the Federal Reserve. Then the Federal Reserve, according to the Bitcoin Act, is going to use this new, whether it's $1 trillion new dollars, if they increase it to the current net worth, or $6 trillion new dollars if they do it at $20,000 an ounce, they're going to use that to buy Bitcoin. That's going to pump Bitcoin up to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars per Bitcoin. Then they're going to use that Bitcoin to pay off debts or spend or whatever. Right? That is not a guess. That is not a theory. Read the Bitcoin Act. That is exactly what the Bitcoin Act tells them they're going to do. Their goal is to buy 1 million Bitcoins, at least. So, if they pump that much currency into Bitcoin, it's going to scry, but it's all inflation. So, if they do that, those who have gold have a short amount of time to take advantage of the Cantillon effect, which is the use of the full purchasing power of the revaluation of gold. I'm going to sell all my gold and buy real world assets, other assets, land. I'll buy more silver because there's going to be a huge gap between the gold silver ratio, and who knows, maybe some other assets. But my gold, if they reevaluate to $20,000 an ounce, I'm selling that to get full purchasing power, pay off any debts that I have, buy houses, buy land, and then, buy some more gold after the inflation hits the economy.
Seeing we'll talk, I had this not queued up next, but seeing we were talking about revaluation, anything you want to add with regard to this question?
Should money be reevaluated, meaning gold and silver? money should only be reevaluated if we're backing the currency with it, not if we're going to be printing more currency to pay off debts on nominal terms. So this revaluation, it might seem like a good idea for those who own gold, but in the long run, that's instantly 500% inflation when we're used to 10% a year. Imagine what 500% inflation is going to do to the global economy if we evaluate and print all this currency and dump it into the economy. It's going to hurt, and that might lead to the 40% threshold where people aren't going to be able to eat, and who knows?
Right.
Something's going to happen July 4th. I mean, if you listen to Basent, what he's talking about, just plans, it's scary.
We shall see. It's coming quick. And I know you mentioned this briefly as you were talking. And for those who don't know, ISO 20022 is the communication standard for, help me, guys, I'm all of a sudden having
for the central banks.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, to
global pay rail systems.
Thank you. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, it was gone. Senior moment right there live on camera, folks. All right. So, yeah, if you're not familiar with it, you should check that out. And then this is the last one I had queued up right here. And this is definitely a Daniel comment, I guess.
What good things could happen in the graded coin market outside the obvious vintage graded, which could make me feel better about being sucked into wasting my money? What good things could happen in the graded coin market outside of the obvious vintage graded? Which, Chadley, like, are you saying that you bought some coins that were overpriced? If you're still here, I mean, what good things? I mean, if they reevaluate gold, any gold-denominated silver, if your gold coin is worth, $5,000-$6,000 at an MS 67, 68. And then they reevaluate gold to 20,000, then that gold coin that's graded is going to increase as well because the gold content is going to be worth more than the numismatic content. It might not have as much numismatic value if we revalue gold and silver, but MS 70s. Are you talking about like eagles? Modern silver eagles? Well, I'll wait for him to respond. But
yeah,
MS, for those who don't know about coin grading, the scale of a coin's wear is from 1 to 70. 1 being poor. American Eagles and Liberty. I don't know. I'm not sure what Libbies are. American Eagle. I for one don't like buying graded Eagles because I don't like buying modern coinage that's been graded unless it's specifically meant to be numismatic, like a limited run 1,000, 2,000 coins, just because, like this Liberty Bell, right? Or the Mexican Libertads from last year, they only made a few thousand of them and they're ridiculously high because of supply and demand. But if you Libertads, Libertads. I thought that's what you. Okay, I thought Libbies, but you went American Eagles and Libbies. I'm like, Libertads. Libertads have a numismatic value just because the Mexican government or the Mexican mint refuses to ship their coins overseas. So the reason why they are so expensive is because every coin company has to have an armored truck paid and pick up and then driven through Mexico or flown into the United States. So that's why Libertads has so much value. But if they revalue gold and silver, numismatics are going to go up too. I just wouldn't buy, unless you're trying to do a collection, like you want every single year MS-70 for American Eagles, I wouldn't buy modern coins that are graded because there just isn't a real market for them anymore. You're better off. I'm better off just buying bullion and not graded coins. But but if you have a collection and you're collecting for that reason, all power to you. Everybody collects for different reasons.
Right. Fair enough. All right. I think we've run Daniel through the ringer here, man. I appreciate you taking the time, man. I really, really do. It's been a great conversation. You get the final say and talk out the door, brother. What do you got? What do you want to say?
Yeah, well, continue stacking. save in gold and silver is your savings, is where you protect your wealth. Everything else is an investment. Cryptocurrencies, stocks, derivatives, bonds, those are all investments. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing at Citizens for Sound Money, go ahead and visit our website. We just launched a new social media platform called the C4 Gold community for our gold members. And we will have private video one-on-ones after our live broadcasts and even after our premieres. If you want to join, our official launch is July 4th for the C4 Gold community. It's $100 a year to be a gold member. You'll get right now we have a limited time where you'll get a 1/5 ounce silver round and a 1/2 ounce of digital kinesis silver for joining as a gold member. So it's only going to cost you about $60. After you get your silver, and you'll be plugged into the Citizens for Sound Money community to learn more about how you can be involved in the sound money movement, how you might be able to lobby, and you'll be able to communicate with us directly. We have our coalition partners. You can click and learn more about them, and you'll be supporting us if you decide to buy anything, any type of bullion or products through them. And if you have a company that is in the gold and silver market, we launched the Sound Money Trade Association for the industry itself. We realized that while we were lobbying, that the industry was underrepresented in the government process. So we are building a trade association so that the industry, along with the citizenry, can push for sound money legislation.
Awesome. Anything you got, BC, that you want to throw out there ask Daniel last minute before we head out?
Well, I appreciate you coming on for this conversation, Daniel. It was very, very different than any of the other ones I've had so far.
Yes.
Which I greatly enjoyed, which, I really wanted to have all the different walks of the crypto life come on and really talk about it. And it's fascinating how each person in the crypto space really values something just a little bit different. And it really highlights the fact that crypto can solve all of the problems.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate coming on and hanging out with you guys. I'll do another Friday, but thing is, I do Whatnot on Friday nights at 7 p.m. So it's hard to do that unless we decide to switch it from Friday to a different day. But I'll try to come on for Crypto on the Rocks.
That's all right. We appreciate you when you can show up, man. Obviously. So whenever you can, bring the drink. Come on over.
Or when I'm traveling, the last time I came on, I was literally traveling and drinking. So
yeah, that worked out good the last time you were there. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I was just my flight was delayed, and I just I'm like, what? Let me get on these guys.
That was funny. Yeah, no, yeah. It was good. All right, guys. Just a shout out for the people that watch my channel all the time. Tomorrow night we had a last minute change. Jar's not able to do the stream tomorrow night, so no Matrix Money this week. We will be back next week, so just be aware of that, please. Okay, we're gonna dance our way out the door. And listen, for those who are on my channel, you're gonna be forwarded over to meet Damien. So CCM Raid, when you get there, let them know where you're coming from, and I appreciate everybody being here.
And just, Miss Libertarian, shoot me an email if you want to lobby, and then we can talk about where you are and how we can get you to lobby and so forth.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. And thank you for all the compliments, guys. Much appreciated. All right. We're dancing our way out. You guys have a good week. We're back next Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Daniel, thanks again, man.
Thank you. Later, guys.
Night all.
Yeah. Yeah. Screens glow, timeline scream, same fear, different day. Lock in, huddle the line, don't blink, don't fold. Hands stay steady when the stories get old. Charts go wild, but the days is fine. Mindset, grounded, battle calm. BC breaking down the noise, hold the line. Yeah, we ride that grind through the fear, through the foot, through the echo chamber signs. They panic, sell, we design the climb. Hold the line, yeah. Old school charts in a new age storm. Seen cycles born, seen cycles